Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'd. Last lesson we began reading through the passage from Ad-Dars al-Thalith, the third lesson, which was a conversation between Ahmed and Ali. So we read the conversation, we translated it, and we highlighted the new concepts that were going to be covered in this lesson. And we promised that in the next lesson we're going to cover these new concepts in more detail. And this is what we're going to be doing in this lesson, inshallah. So the first concept that came in the passage was the number 14, and we said one of the new concepts is counting from 11 to 19. Counting from 11 to 19 in the Arabic language. The rules for numbers vary depending on which number you're talking about. So far we've covered 1 and 2, wahidun or wahidatun or ithnani and ithnatani. We said these two, they follow the same rules as na'at man'ut. They have to match the thing you're counting the same way that the na'at matches the man'ut in the four things. In the gender, in the number, in the ending, and whether it's ma'rifah or nakira. So we've covered that already. We've also covered 3 to 10 in book 1. So with 3 to 10, the number opposes the thing you're counting in gender. So we'd say thalathatu buyutin. And we also would say thalathu sayyaratin. And it gives you mudaf ilayhi. The thing you're counting comes as mudaf ilayhi and it comes in the plural form. We've also covered mi'ah and alf. We said mi'ah and alf. The number here, it remains uniform. Whether the thing you're counting is mudhakkar or mu'annath, it's going to remain the same, unchanged. And it also gives you mudaf ilayhi. However, the mudaf ilayhi, the thing you're counting, is going to be in the singular form. So you'd say alfu baytin, alfu sayyaratin, mi'atu baytin, mi'atu sayyaratin, which is different to 3 to 10. With 3 to 10 you use the plural form, thalathatu buyutin. So it's slightly different. Now, for this lesson we're going to cover 11 to 19. 11 to 19. With 11 to 19, if you look at the books of grammar, they refer to them as al-a'dad al-murakkaba. Adad means a number. A'dad is the plural. A'dad al-murakkaba, we can translate that as compound numbers. The reason why they're called compound numbers is because they're made up of two parts. So we have the units and then we have the tens. So part 1, we can call it in Arabic al-juz al-awwal. And then we have part 2 is al-juz al-thani. So we have two parts, the units and the tens. 1 and then 10, and together it gives you 11. 2 and 10, 12. 3 and 10, like so on. So let's write them down. So we have ahada as being the unit 1. The mu'annath form is ihda. Ahada, ihda. We don't use wahidun and wahidatun. We use ahada or ihda in this case. For 2, it's ithna or ithnata. Ithna or ithnatan. And we take off the noon. We don't say ithnani and ithnatani. We take off the noons. Ithna, ithnata. And then from 3 to 10 is going to be for mudhakkar without the ta marbuta. So we say thalatha. Thalatha without the ta marbuta. And the mu'annath forms are going to be exactly the same, but we add thalatha ta marbuta at the end. And the same until the end. So we have arba'a, arba'ata, khamsa, khamsata, sitta, sittata, sab'a, sab'ata, thamaniya, thamaniyata. And then the last one, tis'a, tis'ata. Okay, so we have here all of them, mudhakkar on the right and the mu'annath forms on the left. With the 10, then we only have one option. If it's mudhakkar, it's going to be ashara without the ta marbuta, and if it's mu'annath, we have ashrata, ashrata, and this remains the same. So we have ahada عشرة إحدى عشرة إثنى عشرة إثنتا عشرة ثلاثة ثلاثة عشرة, or ثلاثة عشرة. طيب. So these are the numbers that we're going to cover. The author, he's divided them into two parts. So he only covers when you're counting mudhakkar things in this lesson. And when you're counting the mu'annath things, he covers them in a later lesson. But we're going to cover all the rules together in one place, as it's easier when you have all of them, and all of the things that you need in one place. It's easier to understand. Okay, so we have two parts. When it comes to understanding the rules, firstly, we need to know that the al-a'dad al-murakkaba, the numbers from 11 to 19, rule number one is that they are all mabni. They're all mabni. Mabni ala fath al-juz'ain. Mabni ala fath al-juz'ain. What does that mean? Mabni ala fath al-juz'ain. It means juz'ain. Juz is one part, right? Juz'ain means two parts. Both parts are going to be mabni on fath. So that's why they're ending in ahada, thalatha, arba'a, thalathata, khamsa, khamsata, ashara, ashrata. That's why they're ending in fatha. The reason is because of rule number one. Both parts are going to be mabni on fatha. But there is only one exception. There's an exception, and that is with ithna and ithnata. With ithna and ithnata, there's exception to this rule. With ithna and ithnata, it changes. It can be ithna or ithnay, or ithnata or ithnatay. If it has the alif, then it's marfu'. If it has a ya, then it's either majur or mansub. Except this one, the rest are all going to be mabni on fatha. That's what we need to know for now. So the first rule is that both parts, they're mabni on fatha. Exception for ithna and ithnata. Okay. The second rule now, the ma'dud from 11 and it extends all the way to 99, it's going to be mufrad. It has to be nakira and it has to be mansub. The thing you're counting, the ma'dud, has to follow these three rules. It has to conform to these three rules. It has to be mufrad, nakira, mansub. So we'd say baytan, sayyaratan, qalaman, rajulan, talibatan, and so on. And that's from 11 all the way to 99. So it goes beyond 19, yeah? It goes beyond 19 all the way to 99. Why did we include 100? Because the rule for 100, we already covered that. Mi'atu baytin. It's not mansub. Yeah, it's not mansub. It gives you mudaf ilayhi. So it's different. طيب. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 3 says that 11 and 12, both parts match the ma'dud in gender. Both parts. So the unit and the 10 will match the thing you're counting in gender. So if we're counting baytan, for example, let's say we have baytan. So that's rule number 2, right? So we have our ma'dud already conforming to the three rules. And sayyaratan. So this is mudhakkar, this is mu'annath. If we wanted to say 11, we need to choose one of these two numbers, and we need to choose one of these two. Because it's mudhakkar, baytan is mudhakkar, we have to use the mudhakkar form, and we have to use the mudhakkar form. For 11 and 12, the thing you're counting has to match both parts. So if it's mudhakkar, we use mudhakkar, mudhakkar. If it's mu'annath, you use mu'annath, mu'annath. Because sayyaratan or baytan is mudhakkar, we're going to say ahada. Ahada ashara. We say ahada ashara baytan. Ahada ashara baytan means 11 houses. If we wanted to say 11 cars, we'd say ihda. We use the feminine form. Ihda, and we use the feminine form on both parts. It's going to match. So we say ihda ashrata sayyaratan. Ihda ashrata sayyara. And the same for 12. If it was 12, we would say ithna ashara baytan. Ithna ashara baytan. If it was cars, we'd say ithnata ashrata sayyaratan. So this is the rules for 11 and 12. The rules for 11 and 12, once again, both parts match in gender with the thing you're counting. If it's mudhakkar, both are going to be mudhakkar. If it's mu'annath, both are going to be mu'annath. The final rule is rule number 4, from 13 to 19. Rule number 4 says that the first part, which is the units, these numbers, the units are going to be the opposite. They're going to oppose the thing you're counting in gender. But the second part, the tens, are going to match. So you have to focus here. The first part, the units, they're going to oppose. So if the thing you're counting is mudhakkar, you're going to use the mu'annath forms. If the thing you're counting is mu'annath, you're going to use the mudhakkar forms. So here is where you have to concentrate by choosing the opposite. But here it conforms. The tens will always conform in this case. Okay, let's say we want to say 19 and 19. 19 houses and 19 cars. We have the ma'dud already, it conforms to the rules. Let's not worry about that. Let's worry about the numbers now. So we need 9 and we need 10. We need 9 and we need 10. Okay, the 9, which is the first part, has to oppose in gender. So we're going to use, because this is mudhakkar, we're going to use the mu'annath form. So we're going to say tis'ata. We're going to say tis'ata. Why? Because the units have to oppose in gender. So we use the one with the ta marbuta. Okay, here sayyaratan is mu'annath. So we're going to use the mudhakkar form. So for this part we say tis'a. With the tens, we said it conforms. So if this is mudhakkar, we're going to use the mudhakkar form. The mudhakkar form is the one without the ta marbuta. So we say ashara. This is mu'annath. So we use the mu'annath form, is the one with the ta marbut actually. Ashrata. And both parts are mabni on fath. They have fath at the end, which was rule number 1. Tis'ata ashara baytan, 19 houses. Cars, tis'a without ta marbuta. Tis'a ashrata sayyaratan. Tis'a ashrata sayyaratan. That's 19 cars. طيب. So this is one of the concepts that's going to be introduced in this lesson, counting from 11 to 19. 11 to 19. Once again, 11 to 19, they're known as al-a'dad al-murakkaba, compound numbers. The reason why they're called compound numbers is because they are made up of two parts. We have al-juz al-awwal and al-juz al-thani. Al-juz al-awwal is the units and al-juz al-thani is the tens. The juz al-awwal, the units, they are of two genders. أحد إحدى إثنى إثنتا ثلاثة ثلاثة أربع أربعة. طيب. The tens also two genders. Without the ta marbuta is mudhakkar, with the ta marbuta is mu'annath. The rules now. With the rules, we have 4 rules. The first rule is that the numbers are going to be mabni. And we say mabni ala fath al-juz'ain. Mabni on fath, both parts. Both parts are going to be fixed on fatha, so they don't change. Remember, mabni means it's fixed, it doesn't change. So if harf jar comes before this word, it's going to remain fi ahada ashara, fi ihda ashrata. It doesn't change, it's mabni. That's why in the example sentence we had fi faslina arba'ata ashara taliban. Arba'ata ashara is mabni. Mabni, it doesn't change, even though it's marfu'. It's supposed to be marfu' because it's the mubtada. It doesn't take a dhamma because it's mabni, so it doesn't change. So when you see the fathas here, don't think that it's mansub. It's not mansub. This fatha is because it's mabni, just like the fatha in ayna. Ayna anta, where are you? Ayna is ismul istifham. The noon has a fatha, and that fatha remains in all cases. Likewise, the fatha on these, they remain in all cases. But remember, there's an exception, yeah? There's an exception with ithna, ithnata. This part here, ithna, ithnata, changes. It can be ithnay or ithnatay. طيب, that's the first rule. The second rule is regards to the ma'dud, the thing you're counting. The thing you're counting from 11 to 99 must fulfill 3 conditions. It has to be mufrad, singular, nakira, indefinite, mansub, ends with fathatain. طيب. Rule number 3 is with regards to 11 and 12. 11 and 12 is easy because both parts match in gender with the thing you're counting. Both parts are going to be mudhakkar, or if the thing you're counting is mu'annath, both parts are going to be mu'annath. But from 13 to 19, which is rule number 4, that's where it gets a bit tricky. Now you need to consider the 2 parts as 2 separate things. So with the units, you have to make them oppose in gender. But with the 10, it matches, it conforms in gender with the thing you're counting. طيب. So this is the first thing we're going to learn in lesson 3. The other concept that we are taught in lesson 3 is how to express the comparative and superlative degrees. So in English, the comparative degree is when you take the adjective and you add er to the end, or you use more or less. So you say this is bigger or more or less than kada or kada. Comparative degree. And then superlative degree is when you say something is the best. So you add est to the end. You take the adjective and add est, or you say it's the most or the least of something. And comparative degree, usually it's to compare between two things. This thing is more than this thing or less than this thing in a particular adjective, particular attribute. So superlative degree is more than two things. Muhammad, from a number of students, he is the most punctual. The most punctual, he is the youngest, and so on, or least punctual. طيب. In Arabic, both of these are expressed using the same adjective, and this is called ismu at-tafdil. Ismu at-tafdil. Another name is also af'al at-tafdil. Af'alu at-tafdil. Af'alu at-tafdil. And this is what we saw. Af'alu at-tafdil. Example of that is akthar. And then we also had atwal, and we had ajmal, and then more on this side ahsan, awsa', akbar, anzaf, ajmal. This is one of the main concepts that we're going to learn in lesson 3. So, to express comparative degree, we have the ism tafdil, and for superlative degree, we also have to have the ism tafdil involved somehow. So, what is ism tafdil? Ism tafdil, firstly, is a noun. It's a noun. At-tafdil shows fadl. It shows that something is superior or it's of a higher degree than something else in a particular attribute, in a particular quality. To express this, you need to take the adjective and place it on this wazn. That's why it's called af'al at-tafdil. It comes on the wazn of hamza, fa, ayn, lam. So hamza is an additional letter. You add it onto the adjective. Fa is the first root letter, ayn is the second root letter, lam is the third root letter. So let's give an example. For example, this word jamilun is an adjective. Jamilun is an adjective. I will tell you that this is on the same scale as fa'ilun. Fa'ilun. What does that mean? It means jim is on the scale of fa, which is the first root letter. That means jim is a root letter. The second root letter is mim because it matches with the ayn. Ya is not a root letter. So the final root letter is the lam. So we have our 3 root letters. 1, 2, 3. So these 3 root letters, the jim, the mim, and the lam, is what we're going to put onto the scale, matching the fa. So jim is going to be on the fa, mim is going to go on the ayn, the lam is going to go on the lam, and then the hamza is added onto it. So let's take jim, mim, and lam. So we've taken jim, mim, and lam. Jim has to match in the harakat as well. So this one has a sukoon. The mim has to have a fatha because the ayn has a fatha, and lam has a dhamma. Then we add the hamza at the beginning, and it becomes ajmalu. Ajmalu. This is how we create it. If we had a different verb, we had hasanun, for example. Hasanun means good. Hasan, there's no additional letters. All of them are root letters. So fa'alun. Fa'alun. So we take the ha, put it on the fa, under fa, corresponding to fa, sin, corresponding to ayn, and noon, corresponding to lam. And then we just add hamza and make sure that they all have the same corresponding harakat and sukoons. So it would be ha, sin, noon, with a sukoon, sa, no. And then we bring the hamza at the start. It will become ahsan. Ahsan is better than. This is more beautiful than. So this is how we construct it. Okay, this is what we're going to have as homework. We're going to have adjectives that come on the same scale as fa'ilun, jamilun, kabirun, tawilun, So we know how to do that. And then hasanun is ahsan. طيب. So you need to know what the root letters are so you can match them onto the scale. So the scale that we're working with for ism tafdil is af'al. Af'al. Now we need to explain comparative degree. For comparative degree we need 4 things. The first thing is al-mufaddal. Al-mufaddal. So al-mufaddal is the noun or the person or the thing that you're saying is superior to the other in the quality that you want to describe. This is the one that's going to exceed the other. Al-mufaddal. Then we have the ism tafdil. Ism tafdil comes. This is what we just spoke about now, how to construct it. The ism tafdil. The ism tafdil comes. Whichever ism tafdil you want to use. If it's beauty, ajmal. If it's speed, asra'. If it's cleanliness, andhaf, and so on. It varies depending on what you want to speak about. Then after the ism tafdil we have to have harf jar, min. So we have to have a harf jar, and that harf jar is min. And then after the harf jar we have the al-mufaddal, al-mufaddalu alayhi. Al-mufaddal alayhi is the one that's been exceeded. So this one is better than this person in whatever adjective or quality you want to place as a ism tafdil. So if you want to now apply this, we want to say Muhammad is jamilun, is what we're going to use as a description, and we say he's more beautiful than Ali. طيب. So Muhammad is the one that's exceeding Ali. So Muhammad will go here. Muhammadun goes in the mufaddal section. Jamilun is the description. We want to convert it now into ism tafdil. How do we do that? We need to put it on the wazn of af'al. And we already explained how we do that. Af'alu, we said this is fa'ilun. Fa goes on the fa section here. So this goes in the fa section. Mim goes on the ain section. Lam goes on the section. We don't need the ya. And then we add the hamza. So it will become ajmalu. And it's important to note that ism tafdil is an adjective. Ism tafdil is an adjective. And it is mamnu' min as-sarf. It is mamnu' min as-sarf. That's why it doesn't take tanween. It's a noun, but it's a tanween-less noun. The reason why it doesn't take tanween is because every adjective that comes on af'al is mamnu' min as-sarf. So ajmal is mamnu' min as-sarf because it's on the scale of af'al and it's an adjective. So we'll put ajmal here. Ajmalu. And then after we have to have harf jar. So whatever it comes after is going to be ism majroor. Ism majroor. Who is he more beautiful than? He's more beautiful than Ali. So we'd say Aliyin. Ajmalu min Aliyin. Muhammadun ajmalu min Aliyin. And in this form, the ism tafdil is usually khabar. It usually comes as khabar. So this will be mubtada, khabar. Muhammadun ajmalu min Aliyin jar majroor. And it's wajib for us to have min after the ism tafdil. It's wajib. Sometimes it's mentioned, min is mentioned, and sometimes it's not mentioned. When is it not mentioned? If it's understood. So for example here, الطلاب في فصلنا أكثر. أكثر. The students in our class are more. So this is الطلاب is our mufaddal. Al-mufaddal is الطلاب. Then we have في فصلنا أكثر. We have the ism tafdil. So you can have other words in between here, but these are the 4 main pillars. You can have other things in between here. It doesn't really matter whether you have them or not. So Muhammadun ajmalu is the same as الطلاب أكثر. We have min mentioned here in our example, but we don't have it mentioned here in this example. We don't have it mentioned here because it's understood. They are comparing the students from one class to the other class. الطلاب في فصلنا أكثر من الطلاب في فصلكم. That would have been the full sentence. And here likewise min has been omitted because it's understood. So we have غرفه أوسع من غرفكم. نوافذه أكبر من نوافذكم. مراحيض أنظف من مراحيضكم. السور التي في أجمل من السور التي في المهجع الثامن. And so on. طيب. So min has to come after the ism tafdil. It's either going to come or it's either going to be omitted, but it's estimated. It's estimated if it's understood. طيب. So this is comparative degree. Something is better than something else. You're comparing between two things. But if you want to do the superlative degree that we said, also superlative degree is best, most, least, then comparing more than one thing, then what you do is you bring the ismu tafdil once again. So you bring the ismu tafdil, but the ismu tafdil in this case is going to become mudaf, and then we have mudaf ilayhi. So for example, we'd say, if we was talking about Muhammad being the most beautiful, the most handsome student in the class, we'd say ajmalu talib, the most beautiful student, or ahsanu talibin, the best student, and so on. So mudaf, mudaf ilayhi. So this is how we express the superlative degree, and this is what he has mentioned here in the lesson here. So it was atwalu talibin, atwalu talibin, the tallest student. The next concept is answering questions which contain some sort of negation. So we have two types of questions. We have positive questions which contain no negation. So for example, ahadha baytun, adhahabta ila al-masjid, and so on. They have no negation. And the answer is either na'am to affirm or la to negate. And then the other type of question is what we learn here is a negative question. A question which contains some sort of negation. For example, ama indak sayyara, don't you have a car? Alaysa kadhalik, is that not the case? Here, when we answer with na'am or la, it gives us the opposite meaning to when we answer na'am or la with the positive questions. So here if you say na'am, it means no. And if you say la, it means na'am. It's the opposite. And we also learn a new harf jawab, which is bala. So in this type of questions, ama indak sayyara, if you want to affirm and say, of course I have a car, you'd say bala. Ama indak sayyara, don't you have a car? You'd say bala. You say bala. Alaysa kadhalik, isn't that the case? You want to say, of course, bala, bala. If you said na'am, that means it's not the case. If you said ama indak sayyara, don't you have a car? And you answer na'am, it means I don't have a car. And if you said la, it means la, I do have a car. Because you're negating the negation that's in the question. Two negations equals affirmation. In Arabic we have nafyu nafi ithbat. Negating a negation gives you affirmation. So if you say I don't have a car, that means I do have a car. طيب. So this is one of the new concepts. The other concept also is al-a'dad al-tartibiyya. Al-a'dad al-tartibiyya is the ordinal numbers. The ordinal numbers, they come to show the order or the position of something in a sequence. And this came towards the end of the passage. في أي مهجة أنت أنا في المهجة الخامس الثامن. And these come on the scale of فاعل. They come on the scale of فاعل. So you put the number on this scale. There's some exceptions. For example, with first, if you want to say first, you'd say أول. أول. So this doesn't come on فاعل. This is an exception. So with first, you say أول. The feminine of أول is أولى. So you say أولى. أول, أولى, first. These usually come as نعت. So it follows the same rules as نعت منعوت. So البيت الأول السيارة الأولى, the first house and the first car. With ثاني we say ثان. Just like غال, we say ثان. But if it has alif lam, we'd say الثاني. The ya comes back, we'd say الثاني. That's if it's مذكر. If it's مؤنث, we say ثانية. ثانية. So ثاني فاعل, but the ya got omitted the same reason as غالي, because the dhamma is difficult. Then there's التقاء ساكنين, then the ya gets omitted. And then we have ثالث. ثالث, third. ثالثة with the ta marbuta if it's مؤنث. رابع. رابعة if it's مؤنث. خامس, fifth. خامسة if it's مؤنث. سادس, sixth. مؤنث سادسة. ثامن. ثامن if it's مذكر. مؤنث ثامنة. And then we have تاسع. تاسع مؤنث تاسعة. And we have عاشر مؤنث عاشرة. عاشرة, 10th. So with the exception of أول, the rest they come on the same scale as فاعل. These are al-a'dad al-tartibiyya. And we can continue. If you look at the lesson headings, they are a'dad al-tartibiyya, thalith, ad-darsu al-thalith. And you can go all the way to the end and see ad-darsu al-thamin, thamin wal-ishrun. It continues, thamin wal-ishrun, as-sabi' wal-ishrun, to the end. If you look at the chapter headings, the lessons, they follow the same rules as al-a'dad al-tartibi. So we'd say al-hadiya ashara, al-thaniya ashara, and to the end. So these are the a'dad al-tartibi, the ordinal numbers. And all of the rules that we've mentioned now, they're going to be re-emphasized inshallah when we go over the exercises. So let's give out the exercises inshallah. This is what we're going to cover next lesson. We mentioned the what we need to do, explain what we need to do, and then inshallah do that for next lesson. So tamarin, exercises. أجب عن الأسئلة الآتية, answer the following questions. Exercise 1, and these questions are taken from the passage. So this is comprehension. Second, ضع هذه العلامة أمام الجمل الصحيحة وهذه العلامة أمام الجمل التي ليست صحيحة. Place the tick in front of questions or the sentences which are correct, and the X in front of questions which are incorrect. And this is also taken from the passage. That's the second exercise. اقرأ الأمثلة الآتية. Read the following examples. لاسم التفضيل, for the اسم التفضيل. هاشم طويل وحامد أطول منه. Hashim is tall, Hamid is taller than him. Okay, one thing we missed out is the mufaddal, the noun that comes after min. The noun that comes after min can come as a normal noun, like min aliyin, as we gave the example, min aliyin. Muhammadun ajmalu min aliyin. And it can also come as a damir. It can also come as a pronoun. So instead of saying min aliyin, we can say minhu. If it was amina, with min aminata, we can also say minha. طيب, remember that it also comes as a damir. So Hashim is tall, Hamid is taller than him. So this is comparative degree here. We have the mufaddal, we have the ismu tafdil, we have min, and then we have the mufaddal alayhi coming as a damir. You don't have to memorize those terms, so long as you know the order and how to construct the comparative degree form, then that's okay. So we've read the examples, and it says here now, اقرأ أمثلة الآتية لاسم التفضيل. هذا الكتاب. Okay, so we just continue reading the examples. We just need to read the examples. That's what it says. Now, number 4, after reading the examples, we've understood how the format for comparative degree is, inshallah, by that time. كون جملة من الكلمات الآتية مستعملا اسم التفضيل. We have to construct sentences from the following words using اسم التفضيل. So the word, the one in the middle, is the adjective that we have to change now into اسم التفضيل. So this is the mufaddal, اسم التفضيل, and then remember we have to bring min, and then mufaddal alayhi is the third noun. So for example here we'd say Hashimun طويل changed to أطول. Hashim أطول من عثمان. Na with a fatha because ممنوع من الصرف. Hashim أطول من عثمان until the end. So that's exercise number 4. Exercise number 5. اقرأ الأمثلة. Read the examples. ثم حول الجمل الآتية على غرارها مستعملا اسم التفضيل. Read the examples, then change the following sentences similar to it using اسم التفضيل. So the example says محمد طالب حسن. Muhammad is a good student. محمد أحسن طالب في الفصل. So this is superlative degree now. We've made it مضاف مضاف إليه. He is the best student in the class. هذا بيت جميل. This is a beautiful house. هذا أجمل بيت في الشارع. This is the most beautiful house on the street. آمنة طالبة صغيرة. آمنة is a small student. آمنة أصغر طالبة في المدرسة. She is the smallest student in the school. So this is exercise number 5. Read the examples, and then you need to create superlative degrees for the remaining sentences, bearing in mind what we mentioned, that the ism tafdil comes as mudaf, and then mudaf ilayhi comes after it. Exercise number 6. اقرأ المثالين. طيب, we're going to stop here. We're going to stop on exercise number 6 for next lesson. So try and complete up to exercise number 6. We're going to go over it next lesson inshallah, and then continue with the rest of the exercises. بارك الله فيكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.